Relaxing.
That was nice. Good morning and welcome everybody. Good morning. Welcome to House Transportation Friday, January 17th. And we have Logan Muberry from our Joint Fiscal Office, and he is going to walk us through the Budget Adjustment Act and any related transportation issues. And then we will be opening it up for questions and committee discussion thereafter. Please, thank you. Take it away and we'll go from here.
For the record, my name is Logan Muberry from the Joint Fiscal Office, and as mentioned, I will talk about the Budget Adjustment Act for this year and how it relates to transportation. It is relatively short on transportation things. There are two items that I'm going to flag for you, both of them very minor. And then we can go for discussion after that, if there is any. The first one, in section 51, every year the transportation budget has a number of transfers that occur to various other funds or other areas of government, usually as regulated by statute. One of those is, you'll see here, to slow number 2, to the recreational trail funds of $370,000. It was determined that this is actually a duplicate transfer. So as it's currently written, it'll be occurring twice. So the change is just to strike one instance of this transfer. So we only transfer the portion of money one time as intended.
Jurisdiction, or where does Vermont Recreational Trails Funds managed out of? Or
that is a great question. I want to say, I shouldn't say, I will have to look. I don't know exactly. No, you're good. You're good. I don't know exactly who manages that fund. I do know this is one of the transfers that we do every year. I believe it is in statute, and I can get more details on that. I'm sure it'll be in this year's budget as well. So if we want to look at that, I can.
Just
wildlife.
I'm just curious.
That sounds right, but I am not for sure.
Very briefly, just a 1-minute piece of it. I'm just curious what they do. What do they do with that money?
I'm not sure they could come in and tell you all about it if you want.
Or somebody could.
Goes to the Moore Valley.
Yeah.
There you go.
As it should. As it should. But I don't want to take up a lot of the committee time for it. I was just really curious,
right?
How we support it is, and what they're doing for the Vermonters in that particular area. I could look it up if somebody knows where they
I just
reside.
looked it up, and then you can look it up online. It's the part of the Department of Forest Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I thought some woman was here last year talking about them. Yeah.
Was it from
If any member wants to go a little bit further into it or wants to hear something about it, just let us know and we'll dig into it. Otherwise, it's really what I understand it to be, Logan, that it's a technical correction of.
Yep, pretty much. For whatever reason you don't want to do this, it'll cost the T fund an additional $370,000 above what we were kind of.
It's money coming back to us because we transferred it twice. Is that what you're saying?
It really just shouldn't happen, and they flagged it before it even occurred. So it won't be going out or coming in. If we don't strike it, it will be going out, which I don't think was the intent of last year's budget. So it's really just cleaning up the language and making it fit the intent.
Representative Burke.
It's it provides annual funding to Vermont communities for the development and restoration of public recreational trails. Municipalities, nonprofit organizations, and government entities are eligible, and it's a federal program. Federally funded.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Perfect. And then the second thing that relates, this is to the DMV, this is even smaller amount, is in section 52. So let me scroll through here real quick. You'll see at the end of this reversions list, you'll see a very small, where's that portion here, less than $2,500 from DMV. My understanding of this was appropriated to the DMV years ago, I believe in fiscal year 21, or I'm not actually entirely sure what the project was, but essentially the project was completed and they had this money. So this is more just cleanup language, sending a very small portion back. And this will go to the general fund, so it doesn't really even affect the T fund, but it is the Department of Motor Vehicles. If you're interested, again, really minor stuff in this year's budget. Adjustment act.
There's all these pages here.
This is section 52. I'm on page
39.
39. So those are the only two things that were flagged that sort of relate to transportation. Again, this is a very, very small year for transportation. That's it. That's all there is in this year. Yep. So
Please, Representative Thomas.
Thank you. So that transfer to the Vermont Recreational Trail Fund, does that mean we now have a surplus of that amount, or it just never came into the T fund? Because we're not going to transfer it out.
correct. So it's not
Okay.
actually changing anything. If we don't do this change, it will be a decrease to the T fund, but essentially this transfer exists in statute and now also in the bill. So if we leave it as it is now, we'll have to make the transfer twice. If we take it out as proposed in the BA, we'll make it once as intended. But as of right now, the double transfer hasn't happened, so no money will shift around. It will if we don't.
Thank
Change
you.
it now. Yep.
I understand that there are some other areas that are not necessarily transportation funds or listed in the Budget Adjustment Act that others have questions about or a piece about. I'm not sure that we really won't, how far you want to go down that particular piece. I know that Senate Transportation has already heard their piece on Budget Adjustment Act or is working on their piece of budget.
I believe they're waiting until it passes to the Senate.
I understand, I'm sorry.
I don't know
Sorry,
what
other
the
words. If there's anything else, Representative Burke?
Well, I just to let the committee know, I'm gonna be putting for consideration by the committee, a request for $4 million to carry over the vehicle incentive programs. The vehicle incentive programs have been, the money's all been used up, which is great, means they're very popular. But I'm hoping that there will be, we don't know whether there's money in the governor's budget yet for the program. But I know that the agency asked for some, and I know that the agency also asked for $4 million for the budget adjustment to carry over the program for a few months until July 1st. And that request did not get accepted with the governor, but it did come from AOT, and Patrick told me they'd asked for $4 million. So that's what I'd like to have the committee consider as an ask for the appropriations committee. So that language will be coming soon.
Representative Trump?
Yeah, on that same, on that same topic, for the last few years, these incentive programs have been in place. They've really gotten moving along, providing, there's an income eligibility, provides, an affordable way for people to transition to either electric or, very efficient vehicles. The budget last year was hoping and expecting a federal grant of, I don't know, almost $100 million. And a portion of that was, we're going to take a portion of that and put it toward these incentive programs to keep them going. I think everybody around the table thought, oh, it really seems like we're going to get that. We felt pretty confident. I think we were sold, pretty confident, not blaming anyone. But we didn't get that. And now these programs have run out. And I'm concerned not only that they run out, but they start and stop, even if we're able to get them going in this year's budget, which I would be pushing for. That activity, is difficult for people. They've just been educated on how this all works. The dealers, same thing. It becomes transparent when the dealers are on board and you come in and you're looking for a high efficiency vehicle. And it also is all part of the sort of climate actions too. So, impacting, for transportation, the biggest thing there is to convert, from combustion vehicles to more electric vehicles. So this, is one of those patterns. And, so I would, also, like to look into that and is there an opportunity to keep those programs going and whatever amount is needed? Clearly, if AOT put it in, they're looking to keep the program going too. So.
Representative Corcoran?
I'm fine.
You're fine. Okay, Representative.
Yeah, thank you. These are freshman questions. So
Right.
when you say represent that they are for high efficiency, was there a definition that we're talking about?
Well, this is a great spot for me to jump in and say, in anticipation of what Representative Burke is working on and potentially presenting to the committee, we have scheduled for Tuesday, Patrick Murphy, who you met, has been sitting over here. He is our liaison, but he also has been before he moved in this spot, running the electric vehicle program for the agency. So on Tuesday afternoon, after Florida, in the afternoon when we open up session, in order to provide background of what the EV program is, what the status is, how it operates, what their, you need background detail. We need testimony on what is the EV program, what's the status of it, what has happened in the last year, and the timing of the money that was done, the flexibility that this committee helped give them last year to move money between programs and to expedite getting the money out. It was, I do want to be very clear, it is not a failure on anybody's part that this ran out. It was a chosen path to get as much incentive money out as quickly as possible, to buy as many vehicles as possible, so that the impact on climate reduction and carbon would happen more quickly. So it was not necessarily the intention of the committee that we were going to spend more than what was budgeted, but it was the intention of the committee for sure to get it out there as quickly as possible. The sooner that the cars are out on, the sooner that the impact on climate goals happen. So the committee gave flexibility to the agency to look at the requirements of how you fit in and qualify for EVs, as well as to move between programs. So I do want to be clear that it was a policy choice to try to have it happen faster. But we didn't make a policy choice, or maybe we had hoped some other money was going to come in. So that might be part of the discussion, but I really want you to be clear that we made a decision as a committee last year to get the money out as quickly as possible without any discussion, or maybe not without any discussion, without a decision on what would or wouldn't happen if they were very successful in getting the money out and getting those cars on the road. So I really want to make sure that is clear, that we're not looking at anyone as doing anything other than what we asked them to.
No,
And to do
that's
it quickly. So I just wanted, so on Tuesday, we are bringing in the background on the program. So yes,
Thank you.
please.
And then my second query is that I understood from some discussion that the money was federal. And are we proposing that it's state now? Is that what we're saying?
I would ask Logan to answer that question.
So
If you're looking, comment on it after, but that type of financial question. I think we-
yeah, of the programs that I think are being discussed here, most of that was state money. I believe a large portion of it came from the general fund originally. But what you may be referring to, there are federal monies for charging and electric stuff in general, but for the specific incentive programs, I think being discussed, it was largely state money. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
You want to go?
Well, I was gonna say, point of clarification, when we first originally received this pot of money, it was ARPA money, and that was federal dollars. And then it went to appropriations committee, and they realized that ARPA money could be expanded a lot better and expended more money. So they swapped out that federal money and gave us state money. I think it was around $22 million. So that's how we got it. It was state. Thank you.
And I just want
This
to,
is, I'm sorry.
sorry, would you?
Sorry,
Wants to
I'll
ask
ask.
clarification
I just wanted to clarify too that,
for the record.
For the record, I'm Damon Leonard from the Office of Legislative Counsel. There's also often confusion because there's a federal tax credit that applies to new and used EVs. And that it's not a direct grant like state programs. So a lot of states will have direct grants that they fund, and then the feds give you a tax credit if you qualify for it. And so there often is a lot of confusion about what's what and when does the money come. And some dealers are registered with the IRS so they can give buyers the tax credit off the top when they purchase. Other dealers are not, so you then have to file paperwork when you file your taxes. So it gets really confusing.
Representative Burt?
Yeah, and I just want to stress that in addition to, the whole reduction issue, this has been a way for low-income people to get fuel-efficient cars. Particularly the Mileage Smart program, which is for very low-income people, has helped people buy used fuel-efficient vehicles. And even the new PEV program has made it possible for people to get, low and moderate income people to get a vehicle for like half price. Something that then will be much cheaper to run in the future. So that's been like a co-benefit of this program. It's been very successful, and I think well received from all sectors anyway.
Representative Thompson.
Thank you. I just wanted to lift up and echo the concerns that we heard from Representative Dodge about GMT funding and service cuts and planned additional cuts. And note that I'm interested in exploring and considering if there's ways we could mitigate the impact of possible future cuts through the Budget Adjustment Act. So I don't have not prepared to offer a specific proposal right now, but I just wanted to share that since we all received that comment from Representative Dodge by email. And I also have been hearing feedback from constituents from my community, and I know others are as well from other neighboring communities.
Okay, thank you. And in anticipation of that and in response to that, we've been working to schedule Ross McDonald from the agency to come in on Tuesday after we talk with Patrick about or learn about electric vehicles. Then we're going to move and take testimony from the agency that we would have otherwise taken for public transportation. Ross McDonald runs public transportation for the agency, and he will we've moved up that informational piece to Tuesday so that the members can have some, at least, information and some history and some current status of where programs are at from the agency's perspective. Ross McDonald's the point on that, so he'll be here on Tuesday afternoon to testify and bring us up to speed with where we're at in public transportation from the agency. So I appreciate that, and we'll have an opportunity to bring a baseline of information to the committee on Tuesday.
It's a big day. Yeah.
Is there any other pieces that we want to address? Well, what I really would like to put to the committee for this additional time that you have is the transportation study related to funding, that we have a long-term issue with transportation funding and where we're going to be able to maintain the infrastructure that we have and where are we going to get the funding that we need as our revenues that we get into transportation through the gas tax and through the sales purchase and use tax, where a third of it goes to the property, a third of it goes to the education fund. We know that across the building, that is the message from everywhere, that's the number one priority. And we contribute a huge amount of money every year, and transportation, and we in transportation have to look at that fund is our funds are going down. That is all happening across the building. We have asked the agency in the last T-bill for the third or fourth time in the last 6 years, to come back with more information on transportation funding and what other states have done. That would be, if there's such a thing as homework, I would really ask you to take a look at that and in that particular piece. And if you have questions around these other issues that were brought up members of the committee so that we're prepared for Tuesday afternoon, that you're prepared with your questions of what the committee has done in those two areas recently, and prepared for questions about those two areas for Tuesday. So we have a lot headed on. We have one huge big picture one that's going to be there all session about funding and future funding and how we're going to pay for and keep our infrastructure at a certain level. That's one big picture item. We have two more potentially immediate items to make sure that we're educated on for the Budget Adjustment Act. And we have to then move through it very quickly, and we'll have to draft a letter next week to respond to appropriations. Or they call them a letter, a memorandum, we have to write one as a committee over there. So this is time for you to use however you choose. Those are the things that are next on our big agenda that we have to get done. Any questions about that? Any clarification of what I missed? We're good? All right, well then, we're adjourned for this week for House Transportation Committee. Thank you very much. We are
Great.